Hello everyone, I'm IsuHusky and welcome to my perspective of the semifinals match between NEKOBLAKII and me. This was definitely my most exciting series to play and to spectate, with a lot of crazy predictions, close calls, and mind games from the both of us. I ended up placing 3rd overall in this tournament, battling Glory Rush for the bronze, but he unfortunately had to forfeit after the first match due to time constraints. I plan on doing a video on that match too though, as it showcased a risky turn 2 YOLO play that turned into the deciding factor of how I was able to win. Stick around and subscribe if you're interested. Neko, on the other hand, actually went on to win the title of Champion of the Alpha in this tournament, defeating me here and Shuni D soon after. In this video, I want to go into full detail about Game 3 and our best of 3, as this is where a lot of the set deciding decisions were made. I will be breaking down every important turn for what was a fantastic end to a very intense, hype match. But words cannot describe how back and forth these games really were, so let's hop right into pick and ban phase. I chose to pick first this time as I felt I had an advantage in doing so. This gave Neko first ban, which she uses to snap ban Ukama, a very wise choice from her, as she realized game 1 that Ukama was definitely my MVP for this matchup, not letting it get through for the rest of the set. I wasted no time banning Skunch in return, because Skunch has favorable matchups against pretty much all of the sweepers on my hyper-aggressive team comp. I failed to connect some of the dots though, as Kinu would check it very easily, and most of my team that I was worried about would have outsped or out-prioritized Skunch and 2-hit KO'd it. I first picked Vilash, another big mistake I didn't realize at the time. Though strong, I very much needed to draft Raze or Mudrid here, and then the other for second pick, as these two were my win conditions against Neko. She responds with Anahir Volarend, the one being her win condition and the other a solid counter to my second pick that I'm required to take here, Mudrid. Since I don't have very many ways to tolerate fire with Ukama gone, Mastion is the last big threat on the table for me to get rid of, with all of the others on her team being picked up or banned already. She bans Raze for similar reasons, and because it affects her win condition Anahir. Not to say that the rested pick ban is irrelevant, but the picks aren't nearly as significant as the first half of the draft, mostly team refinements and coverage now for both of us. On my team, Kinu is to synergize with my 2 crystal sweepers so they are harder to get off the board, Paharak because it's more consistent taking care of her 2-Vine and Volarend than my 2-Vine would be, and Gazuma for the 2 wind types, and so that I have a pivot other than Kinu. As for her, 2-Vine and Gialis are her heavy hitters other than Anahir, while Pig is the dedicated support and minor pivot of the team. I never think much of a Pig when my opponent drafts it, because it isn't ever really a problem for my team. But to my surprise, this final pick actually helps decide the game later on because of predictions and correct utilization. Right out of the gate, both Neko and I are at risk of damaging our win conditions if we keep them on the battlefield. Mudrid can mud showers into Anahir and nearly kill it, while Volarend can use Windblade to deal a good chunk of damage back to Mud. Neither of us commit to staying on the board with them, but with my Vilash, I go for a greedy play and madness buff since I don't think it will be targeted. To my luck, she ends up double swapping, giving me a free setup on Vilash, with an even greedier Kinu switch in to buff its defenses up another notch. For turn 2, I instinctively double targeted her left slot without much other thought. Against every other team in every other match, this was a great idea due to Pig never threatening my side of the field, like I had talked about earlier, and usually resulted in big damage, a bad decision, or a dead Tem. But not against Neko. She wisely switches in Anahir and it soaks both hits with ease, one of the only Tems that's able to do so with the coverage I was putting out. This causes the tempo to resolve to her, as I am pressured to switch out next turn. I decide to do a double switch, going into Paharak and Mudrid. At the time, I was worried that Anahir would just Meteorite Swarm on switch to deal hefty super effective damage to what I had out. Paharak is the least important member of my team for this match, so I put it in as damage fodder, and Mud right next to it to force Anahir out. For those of you coming from Pokemon, think of the Mudrid Anahir situation like a Heatran on the field against an Earthquake user. You almost never risk staying in against it. It's not worth it, and throughout the video you'll see Neko keeps Anahir very safe. Instead of attacking like I thought, she goes for the heat up to get Anahir online, which makes me realize my double switch was a bit too safe and allowed that to go unpunished. Although it might sound a bit crazy, I think the better turn for me would have been to use Kinu's sacrifice while switching into Mudred from Valash's spot to give it +2 defenses. Kinu had done enough already, and that would have given me a free switch back into Valash to take its spot at the end of the turn, putting all of my fast, bulky pressure out onto the field. Now this is where the fun starts. Neko and I both respect each other for being intelligent players, and you can see this reflect in our decisions from this point on. The mind games are real. Let's watch this turn from her perspective, and then I'll give you a breakdown of what actually happened.
C'est ce qu'il veut tenter de faire. Moi je vais faire ça. Et j'ai bamboozle, mais en fait il va attaquer avec Hypoxia, et ensuite il va faire une attaque de type terre. Et moi météorite storm ça sera pas assez rapide. Donc il va faire une attaque de type terre. Gialis, je crois qu'il prend du 4 aussi, donc je vais devoir sacrifier mon Volarand, je pense. Je pense que je vais sacrifier mon Volarand, ouais. Putain, mais il joue jamais comme j'ai envie. Pardon, excusez-moi. Qu'est-ce que je disais? Ouais. Putain, j'aurais fait météorite Swarm là, c'était free. C'est tellement pas logique.
Alright, now let's run that back and take a look. I can't actually understand much French at all, but from her gestures and the Temtem names she used, I have a pretty good idea of what her thought process was. Neko, without hesitation, targets Mudred with Tornado, and since Wind was super effective to Earth at the time, this would have nearly killed Mud. She expects Mud and Paharak to double into Anahir, and even with the Bamboozle up, she knows that it could risk dying because of that. She goes to switch it out, and briefly seems to do a calculation to see if Gialis is too risky to put in. She opts to go with Volarend instead, since it is one of her bulky pivots. As for me, I predicted this turn near perfectly. I knew Anahir was going to have Heatran syndrome, so I flipped Mud into Gazuma for 2 reasons. 1, it takes no damage at all from wind attacks if she tries anything with Pig, and 2, it is my Volarend counter, which would have been one of the safest switch-ins for her. I kept Paharak in for the same reason. I expected Volarend to come out, and like I explained in the draft phase, I specifically selected it to deal with Volarend. Her best option here was actually to send in Tuvine. Even with what she predicted I would do, Tuvine eats up both wind and earth attacks too, and a crystal dust from Mud wouldn't have done much either. It would have forced my Gazuma out as well for the next turn, but this was also really hard to see coming, so I don't blame her. Not much action happened on turn 5, though I did lose momentum. I went for another hard prediction by swapping Gazuma out into Mudred, expecting a double switch from her into what I wished was Anahir. I was a bit too hopeful, and probably should have just attacked with Gazuma instead since I was at such a huge advantage. She only switched Pig Epic out into Tuvine, which Paharak hardly chunked at all. My win condition is threatened on the board now, so I have to swap it out back into Gazuma, which further reinforces that I really shouldn't have swapped it out in the first place. This doesn't stop Neko from using Hyperkinetic Strike in that slot though, and I'm actually able to use that as bait to kill Volarend. With Paharak, I want Volarend's priority move to outspeed me because I know that it has the aerobic trait. This drops its special defense down by 1 level every time it uses a wind move, in turn for 1 speed. What this means for me is that it puts Hypoxia in kill range, but I pretty much have to kill off Paharak to do so. Very worth it in my eyes though, as Paharak is the weakest member in my lineup and has thus completed its job. Neko uses her free switch in to pop in Anahir against a very safe board state. I can't really do anything but take the hit here. I want Paharak to die anyway, and Gazuma is stuck where it is. I was fully content with letting both of my Tems die in order to return with a stronger board state, but my Gazuma somehow managed to survive the hit and foiled those plans slightly. This is where things start to completely turn around as Neko capitalizes on my mistakes and outwits me a few times. My first dumb mistake was putting in Mudred over Valash. Mud has no kill power on the board right now, or even if she switches out, because Anahir had Bamboozle up and her other Tems are still very healthy. I don't know if I forgot about the Valash already being set up with the Madness buff, but it went terribly underutilized the entire fight. I end up having an abysmal turn as Tesla Prison barely doesn't kill Pig, and Crystal Dust doesn't put out enough damage whatsoever on the 2-vine switch. To make matters worse, Pig gets a tornado off on Mud and drops it down to about a fourth of its health left. Again, everything here could have been avoided if I had just switched in Valash to begin with. Remember how I talked about switching in Valash? Well, I seemed to realize this a turn too late as I'm flipping it in to take the 2-vine Gatling for no reason, even though Kinu's right there. You can tell my decisions are a bit more panicked because I could feel myself losing my grasp. What makes this turn even crazier for me was Neko switching Pig out. I wasn't expecting it to be of any relevance to the match anymore, and thought it was dead to an electric storm. I was wrong. Turn 10 will go down as one of the most bizarre series of outplays the Alpha had ever seen. No one expects the Pig.
If it doesn't kill...
They're rethinking.
Yeah.
Crystal Spikes, he's over... Okay, he's expecting the swap. I think he's expecting a swap.
And he called it!
Wow, beautiful.
He did expect the swap, and it's the Pig. So, not only will the Pig die... But the Tesla Prison will go onto the 2-vine, probably killing it. Gaining 2 scavenger probes.
Move.
Very good.
Genius.
Oh, but that's the... He's knocked out because of the Fainted Curse, of course.
C'est totalement le mental qu'on joue. Ça a marché. Le mental a marché. C'est peut-être pas la meilleure des solutions. Ah si, c'est la meilleure des solutions. The brain in game, guys.
And the rest is history. Thanks for watching. Credits to the streamers will be linked below in the description. If you guys want to see more in-depth videos like this, be sure to let me know in the comments, and leave a like if you like the idea. I can turn this into a series where I break down matches like this one, going into full detail about the decision making, thought processes, and general competitive knowledge if it gets enough support. I'll also be uploading the raw footage of the rest of my tournament matches over the course of the next week or so, and I have some video ideas brewing to help grow this as a competitive and educational channel. Stick around if you're interested. Until next time.